Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's Marketing Legos Thought Leader interview. My name is Harshit, and I'm the Director of Business Alliances of two brilliant marketing SaaS tools, RankWatch and Websignals. And my today's special guest is founder of one of the UK's fastest growing marketing agency called Digital Ethos. Luke, welcome to the show, and so happy to host you today.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Perfect. Luke, please tell us a bit about yourself, about your journey. You're an investor, you're a marketer, you're a mentor, you planted a lot of trees. How were you as a kid, and how you got to where you are today?
Yeah, it's been an interesting journey, I guess. My career started out actually completely different to marketing. I was in recruitment, and then I owned a bar hire company for a little while and tried quite a few things. I guess I've always been very entrepreneurial. And then I then had a website, an online e-commerce website, which I needed to learn how to drive traffic to, right? So I started consuming lots of books and online courses and Google certificates and all those things to start trying to learn how to drive traffic to that website. And I actually found a real love and passion for marketing. And this was probably 12, 13 years ago now. I actually came to sell that business and then had the opportunity to go and work in my first agency. Just love the environment. I love the speed. I love the pressure. I love the fact that you have to spin lots of plates every day. The thing I wasn't too sure about was the fact that there's often like gaps between the service level of, how happy the client is. And there's almost like this no man's land that sits between the client and the agency of like mistrust and delivery issues. And I thought, God, there's got to be a way of like syncing this together and being more of a true partner for that client. So anyway, had that idea for years, didn't do anything with it. And then in 2016, decided to form Digital Ethos. It was just me in my bedroom. I'm back in here today in my bedroom with a few freelancers and started to scale up from there, which was great. And in early 2018, hired my first full-time member of staff. And now we're at sort of 55 people, and it's been an amazing journey. Yeah, we've got multiple UK offices. We've also got a Toronto base. We're in Germany, and yeah, it's been a rapid but exciting journey. And obviously, sort of touching on other bits that I've got involved in, the success of the business has allowed me to really look at other things that I'm passionate about. So sustainability, eco-tech, and I've started to invest now through my own company, Tobin Capital, in startup ventures and businesses that I think have got purpose and real meaning.
It's perfect. Let's talk a bit more about the agency. What all are the core expertise, and what is the team hierarchy right now?
Yeah, so Digital Ethos is a team of 52, I think we are actually as of today. We're hiring a few roles as well. Our core focuses are performance channels, so SEO, PPC, or any paid channel, really, paid social as well, organic social, PR, and then creative services, so videography, photography, design, and web design. So really full service. And actually that's been an evolution. We started 6 years ago as a SEO agency, really, that did a little bit of web design. And now we've literally bolted on other services and become sort of very, very specialist providers of each of those as we've developed.
Oh, nice. And coming to the development part, what are the platforms that you guys leverage? Is it limited to WordPress or is it more?
There's a mix. So I would say we're probably 85% of the work we get in or that clients need us for, it is WordPress still, or PHP based anyway. We do have some Laravel and some Magento sites that we also support and host. And we've got 3 in-house developers and 3 partners that we work with externally for code bases or languages we can't do, things like .NET, etc., or Angular we would outsource. But there's a lot we can do in-house as well. And really a lot of the web devs team, outside of building full projects and builds, they support a lot of the marketing efforts as well, where maybe we need landing pages, extra bits of technical work on site for SEO, etc. So it's a really diverse offering, which fits the core marketing element of the business.
Oh, that's super. And who's an ideal fit to be a client of Digital Ethos, and is there specific criteria that you go through, and what scale of businesses that you guys mainly cater to?
Yeah, it's a great question. It's changed a lot over the years. So I think, when you start off, you're sort of happy to take any client. And then as it develops, we've moved to, I guess our sweet spot really is it's a mix of probably 3. So like a larger SME that's got budget to spend maybe £2,500 to £5,000 a month type equivalent, and they need multi-channels rather than just one channel, tends to be good for us. A lot of e-commerce businesses as well over the last couple of years, especially, the world's gone a bit bonkers with online demand. So we've really pivoted to more e-commerce websites. We do still have an element of B2B and lead gen though as well. And then I think there's this whole segment of customer that we've started to support. We built a strategy team in the business about 12 months ago. So it's now gone from 1 to 4 people within a year, which is great. But we really get into business intelligence with our clients. We understand what they're trying to achieve over not just a 12-month, but more of a 24, 36, 5-year plan. Look at what that looks like from a sales and growth perspective, and then almost reverse engineer that back through strategy and look at which channels then help to drive that growth from a growth engine perspective. And the marketing elements almost become secondary to the business solution providing that we give. So that marketing intelligence and business intelligence piece is really pivotal. So a whole mix of clients in that. And we've got international, national, regional, local, it's a real range. And we've never sort of specialized in one niche. We've kept ourselves fairly generalist deliberately, even though a lot of the books you read and a lot of the advice you get is to specialize in one thing. The diversity has given us, I think, more security during COVID, and it's also given us a real breadth of knowledge to be able to help a range of different customers.
That's true. Because, and that's wise as well in a way. Because say, for example, if one channel isn't working or if things go south and whatever your commitments are with the client, that something like, that particular channel is not doing justice with, at least you have some or the other engine running that could still take you or, get that client to that particular goal altogether. So that's wise, I believe. And I also like the approach, the long-term approach that you take. So again, for the agency point of view, I'm sure that must be giving you a stable recurring revenue as well. What's the retention rate of the agency right now?
So it's 85%. Well, we do an analysis of this at the end of every year. So our financial year ends end of August. So we need to do this year's, but I assume it's going to be very close. Between 80 and 85% is, and we always benchmark ourselves to be above 80. In the last 4 or 5 years, we've never fallen below it. So I think it's pretty high. The industry averages we look at, so around 40, 50%, right? So there's a lot of, movement generally in marketing, unfortunately. I think we all know that. But if you can stay above 80%, I think you can healthily grow then and from a secure base.
Anything apart from this long-term strategy that you do to kind of like improve the retention rate of the client?
Yeah, I think it all starts from the beginning of the relationship. I always tell my team, if you have a relationship of any form in life, whether it's making a new friend, a romantic relationship, those first few months are the most important, right? So we've all been there. You're hanging off that next text message from somebody, or you're waiting for them to call you, or you're waiting for and there's a lot of trust elements that need to happen in those first few months for people to settle and calm. So it's really important that in those first few months, we really become an indispensable part of that client's journey and plan. So to do that, we work now through offering workshops at the front end of every client journey. So we have at least half a day with them. We try to get them to come to one of our offices where we can look after them. We can really bring them in. And then we have regular touch points. So we work on what's called like a 4-3-2 model over the first 3 months. So in the first month, they hear from us every week. So 4 weeks of the month. In the second month, it's 3 times. And in the third month, it's twice a month. So a bi-weekly call is where we end up. Some clients prefer to have like a monthly, or some will ask for a weekly to continue, but we have to try and balance the workload. So ideally, it's that 4-3-2. And that tends to give us lots of touch points with that customer to really engage them, really settle them, and really just build security around the relationship.
That makes sense. I think relationship is the key to all the things, right? And anything apart from that, I think one of the other things that might be working in your favor would be like, because you are a full stack agency, and for almost like every service, the client can rely on to you guys. So that also kind of like, minimizes the, the whole this thing, and works in your favor, right?
Definitely. Yeah, it definitely helps.
Gotcha. All right. Let's talk a bit more on the digital PR front. That's one of the main services that you provide. And I would love to know, like, what all kind of, different kinds of PR services that you offer to your customers.
Yeah, so PR actually, interestingly, is our newest service. So we introduced PR around 12 months ago, maybe a little bit under 12 months. And the reason that we did it is we saw such a growth and correlation between SEO and PR, and that sort of deep connection of having genuine stories, genuine news hooks, and real things to go out and talk about to the world. I think we all know that historic SEO, you could do guest blogging and even at one point get away with paid links or whatever, and it would help with authority, and you could get away with it. But the world has changed, and actually really what works now is having genuine stories and real things to talk about, and getting genuine placement and building content that is shareable, that is engaging, and actually has meaning and purpose. So we built the PR team to do a mix of two things: a bit of traditional PR for us with press releases and media contacts, a bit of media buying as well with paid advertorials, etc. But then also to work closely with the SEO team to help create content that was going to be really beneficial and shareable.
Gotcha. Look, one question around it. Usually the PR content, they do carry that sponsored tag. What are your thoughts onto it? Like with respect to SEO, when it carries that sponsored tag, backlink to your client site, how's the impact, and what are your thoughts around it?
Yeah, I guess it depends, right? The most quality content that we see works is, let's say you create a shareable blueprint on a topic or a white paper or something, and it's genuinely usable by other companies in that niche or in that industry. So if we create, just to put it into Digital Ethos content, if we create a marketing based white paper that has some really usable charts, statistics, facts and stuff in there, and we put that out as open source, we know that people are going to link to it and use it, right? Some pieces of content we've done like that, I've got 600-700 links to it, which is fantastic, incredible result. And why not? Because we're giving it out there. We've spent lots of time, resource and financial incentive into building that as something that's shareable. And from a Google perspective, that is the most genuine form of content, because Google can see that that's a quality piece of content that's being shared and liked and linked to, and that will drive really good authority, obviously back to the host site, and that gives them benefit for the work that they've put into to getting it there. So we see that works really effectively. Obviously, yes, you can sponsor content as well from a link perspective and link juice perspective. It's not quite as powerful, but it still has some weighting, right? I think having a mix of links coming in, a mix of do follow, don't follow, mix of different DAs, all of that makes a huge difference. It's about the combined effort. If you only had 60 DAs, for example, it would look a little bit dodgy. So you need a bit of a range.
That's true. And one of the best thing about like digital PR is like that's so good for your branding, right? Even if for any of your business keyword, say a PR article about your brand on XYZ media site is ranking high, then also still getting your visibility, you're still getting your fair share of referral traffic to your site, and turns into a positive ROI altogether for your business, right? So yeah, I mean, investing into digital PR makes perfect sense. But how do you decide when is the right time for business to invest into digital PR?
I think in 2022, a business not investing in a form of digital PR, and that's a mix of business brand, but also C-level brand and board brand as well. So the owners, the founders, if you don't create a personal brand, and we all know it, right? When we think about the big brands of this world, you always think about the CEOs as much as you think about the brand, right? Whether that's Elon or Jeff Bezos or whatever, you can say those names and straight away you think of the brand behind them, right? You don't even need to say the brand because they are just as big, if not bigger in some ways than the brands. So you need to elevate and have a personal brand approach, which again is a form of digital PR, but it is important because that interlinks. And then you also need to focus on digital PR for the business. If you want to stand out, right? It's becoming increasingly difficult, especially for smaller SMEs, to get a chance to stand out. If they're not doing the fundamentals of digital PR, they will be lost.
That's true. And that's very wise, actually. Personal branding is extremely important. And especially when you're launching a new business. I mean, person behind that particular brand anyways has that skill or expertise for launching that particular brand, right? So leveraging that first makes better sense, and then you can kind of like build onto the new one on top of it. So that makes perfect sense.
There's a saying, contacts equal contracts, right? And it's about network, and your network is your net worth. And I totally, they're a bit cheesy, but I really agree with it, right? It's about building out that network, building out credibility, and using what you start with. So if you're a startup business or you're scaling up, I do a lot of advisory work with these types of companies. I'm like, look, who've you got in your own network right now that will be your initial ambassadors? They'll be part of your tribe. Like, how do you get that first bit of messaging traction? How do you incentivize them to start banging the drum for you? And that's the easiest place to start, right? Those people know you, they're engaged with you, even if they're a distant connection on LinkedIn. They've got some sort of affinity to you because they've at some point looked at your profile, or there's been something. Use that to your advantage, because it is an advantage.
That's true. That's true. And how do you go about with the PR evaluation altogether, like measuring the success of a PR campaign? What that process looks like?
Yeah, there's different ways of doing it. There's the typical traditional way of measuring PR is like advertising value equivalent. So basically, if you got placement in a newspaper, for example, and it was an organic placement for free, how much would that have cost you? You had to pay for the same spot. So that's a really good way of doing it. And also then looking at readership numbers, website traffic, obviously from a digital PR perspective, links is another thing, of course, the quality and the DA of those links. There's all sorts of ways of doing it. And then effectively, like, if the content piece is very much brand driven, which often it can be with PR, really looking at what direct traffic impact that has over a period of weeks afterwards, whilst that piece of content is live, can really help as well to correlate back what the impact has been for brand related search terms.
That's brilliant. And let's talk SEO, right? And one of my favorite niche in SEO is link building. Are there any of your favorite link building technique that you practice more and kind of like, enjoy doing?
I think, link building's it's such an interesting thing, isn't it? Because for a lot of agencies, it's a dirty word. And for a lot of SEOs as well, they either love it or they hate it. A lot of technical SEOs hate link building. A lot of content SEOs don't understand link building, or can't, so it's a real skill, actually, if you can do it. And I think really what it comes down to, and again, this is going back to some of what I've said already, it's about having like genuinely useful content, in my opinion, that people will want to link with. It's also a little bit about newsjacking in this day and age. So if you can jump on a trend at the right time and have a piece of content, it can get lots of links and lots of pickup, right? Journalists and publications are super hot on like trend driven comms. So if you can get out the door quickly, even with like an image that's like some sort of meme or something that can then go get huge exposure, it can get picked up by publications, it then links back. There's all sorts of ways. I mean, then obviously there's the traditional tactics as well, from finding broken links to trying to repair those, to again, outreaching directly to third-party sites. There's lots of things that we do in the agency, but the things that I think are the most successful are like genuine content-driven newsjacking type stories that get initial traction and picked up quickly.
What are your views on one of the low-hanging fruit that I've seen, and a lot of businesses and even the marketers kind of like not leverage that as unlinked mentions about a brand. So that again is something people should. I mean,
they should. Mm.
Do you practice that, and do you use any of the tools to kind of like track those things down?
We do. We work at the moment with a couple of tools that allow us to look at the link quality, link data, and then try and look for opportunities that might have been missed, like those link mentions or tags. But it's interesting because I know that there's a lot of SEO agencies out there that don't really do much link building at all these days, right? Even though, yes, it's still quite a heavy rating in the algorithm. So yeah, I think there's opportunity. There's definitely opportunity. And as more people move away from it and more into digital PR and that way of generating links, I think some of the traditional tactics, like you're talking about, are still left there then as low hanging fruit, because people are focusing more on the bigger stuff. So yeah, having a mix of both strategies probably makes a lot of sense.
And is the agency into paid guest posts and all? I mean, is that a service that you provide?
We still do some. Yeah, we still do some. Obviously, from from an authority perspective, it can be a quick pickup and it can definitely help. And again, talking about diversity of a link portfolio, you would expect to have some guest posts in that. So it is still relevant, not as powerful as some of the other stuff we've talked about, but still relevant. Yeah.
And when you do that, Luke, is there any specific criteria, like when you're finalizing a publisher's site to do a guest post, right? Is there any specific list of things that you take into account before, approaching that particular blogger altogether?
Absolutely. So for us, it has to be a site with genuine traffic and niche relevant, and it has to be something that we believe could drive some sort of ROI, not just the link placement. So we no longer just build links for link authority.
Is it the referral traffic that you get from it?
Exactly. That's a big part of it. And also just really making sure that there is some intrinsic value, because we're very transparent with clients, right? So we will share everything and we back up the reason why. So whereas, years ago, you could get away with just doing placements on blogs that were never probably seen or read, that's a thing of the past. So it has to be on areas where we're proud to be placed and we're proud for our clients to show that has an inherent value, but also offers some link value as well.
That's true. And that's wise as well. Like looking into the traffic trend, the organic trend of any blogger before approaching, that makes sense. Just checking their history, whether they have been penalized by Google in the past or not, and you don't end up becoming that spammy link altogether that will harm your SEO. So no. Let's talk about some of the tips that you can share because you've been mentoring startups a lot, right? And one of the biggest challenges that the startups have is they have less time and less money, right? And SEO is something that needs a lot of discipline. It's long term, right? But are there any tips that can help them to deliver quick SEO results and still at least fulfill their short-term goals of leads and traffic, and then still have sufficient ROI and further invest for their long-term goals?
Yeah, I mean, look, from SEO, we all know it's mid-long-term plan, right? But there are things you can do, especially if you're a localized or smaller startup business, using Google My Business, your GMB to your advantage, making sure that you get some map placements on there, drive reviews obviously from your customers, and really start to get some traction that way. That helps to build credibility and trust. I think putting out fresh and relevant content then on your blog, but also on GMB as well, are quick wins, and they are just time driven. They don't cost money to do that. I think outside of that, then leveraging social media, of course, to build a community, and that tribe, that initial ambassador bit that I talked about, you can do that quite successfully through social. Depending on whether you are a service B2B or D2C type business, you might have different ways of doing this. But if you are a B2B business, you probably do very well using and leveraging LinkedIn with your personal brand. That's a way to go, and it doesn't cost you anything to do that and have a voice. If it's more sort of D2C or local type business, again, leverage that network and try and do the things that are fairly inexpensive to start with. And then once there's some budget, or if there's some money there, probably looking at some paid channels to acquire. There's that sort of build versus buy approach, right? You can build organically, it just takes longer, or you can buy a bit as well. And the sort of perfect marriage or harmony, in my opinion, for online success is having as many channels attributed to each other as possible. So really trying to leverage both would be the right approach.
That's true. And since you mentioned social media, and that's one of, again, all the main services that you provide, how effectively, do you think social signals kind of impact the SEO side of a business altogether? What are your...
It's a really interesting question, right? Because there's a lot of mixed opinions on this. Yep. We do see, and again, this comes down to brand, right? It comes down to the PR stuff we've talked about, it comes down to everything. If you are actively building more social presence and interactions, and in turn social signals are strong, as much as Google can't crawl all of those private sites like Meta, etc., but it can see that there is brand-based mentions, and it gets wind of that. We do see a correlation in uplift in rankings. So there's a lot of agencies that say that that's BS, and you don't. But we've tested it over the last few years, and there is a correlation. But I think it's a correlation not just of the Google rankings, but of the overall brand experience, right? So if direct traffic increases through, then all of that carries everything. And if Google can see that your site's getting more traffic, you're more relevant over another site, part of the algorithm will start to play in your favor. So it's all interconnected.
I've actually experienced it myself. And like 5-6 years back, I used to run a blog, a women-centric blog. And, at that particular time, even the Facebook algorithm wasn't that smart. So what I used to do is, it was like in and around relationship, dating, all of those stuff, right? And skincare, anything that resonates with the female audience. I was specifically targeting US. And what I did was I had few people, and the full-time job was just to find new groups on Facebook and share anything new, any new article that we're doing on daily basis. Okay. And they were promoting it like crazy. In a day, around 800, 900, sometimes even like 1,200 groups on Facebook. Yes. There are like tons of them on Facebook. Yeah. And I've seen even really competitive keywords around that specific genre, right? Abusive relationship or just the term relationship. I was ranking really high. The SEO skyrocketed, and I wasn't doing much on the link building front that particular time. And it was such a direct impact. And there were definitely some guidelines around it. They have to share it only on the open groups, not the closed groups, and so that I get most value out of it. But yeah. I mean, worked, and I think I was able to make that blog reach to somewhere around 700K.
Oh, okay, nice.
In monthly traffic in around 8 to 9 months post we launched that blog. The DR was shit, but the DA again like reached to something. I think it was 62 back then. In just 8 to 9 months. So that's the level, and I'm sure now the algorithms are much smart. So definitely that magnitude of the impact won't be there. But yeah, I mean, still it really contributes. If you're a content, your blog article is getting shared multiple times, definitely you'll get more value, you'll get more traffic, more exposure, right? So yeah, I mean, it does impact your rankings too directly.
100%. Nice.
What are the main KPIs, when it comes to SEO that you as an agency keep track of, like mainly your, SEO analysts and strategists? And then what are the main KPIs that you report to your customers? I'm sure there must be some, differences there, but what are all those?
It depends on their industry, right? So, if you're a B2B type business wanting lead gen from the site, they're interested in ranking still positions because they see more traffic correlation from that. Obviously traffic, time on site, all the basic metrics you'd expect. But really for us as a business, it's about compounded growth and being able to show like relevant traffic increases. Obviously conversions, everything we do as a business is data led. So really what we want as the end result for any client is to drive more revenue, right? In whatever capacity that is. So all of the metrics and the goal tracking and everything we use through analytics is to flow into some sort of ROI. Obviously with SEO it takes a little bit longer sometimes, but that compound growth month on month is what we're looking for across each of the core analytic metrics.
Gotcha. And let's talk about like one of the most successful case studies that you had. Could be around SEO or any of the new services like PR that and few metrics to back that success story, please.
Yeah, it's probably worth. We just won an award actually, the UK Paid Media Awards. So we won with the same client, a company called VIP Bottles. And we've actually won 2 years in a row. So we took over their so best use of automation and runner up this year for shopping campaign of the year. So we're very, very strong when it comes to e-commerce within the company anyway. And a lot of our clients are using shopping or Performance Max now as we're moving towards, but we also do SEO for them and we've supported with PR, etc. So they're a good client. When they started with us, they were, I think 5 or 6 people. Now they're like 40 over the last sort of 2.5 years. The increase, and I quote, it's not going to be 100% right, but it's around 1,000% increase in revenue. These are on our case study page, and paid performance is up like 800%. Their ROAS is something like 10 times. It's fantastic. So we've absolutely smashed it out of the park, and their organic traffic as well is through the roof compared to where it was. Position 1 to 3 rankings are in the hundreds now. So it's been a really fantastic case study for us, and it's a real omni-channel campaign that's taken lots of moving parts, and all departments in the business have been involved, which is quite nice because they actually feel connected then to the growth journey of that company as well.
Super. That's super. And Luke, like the way people been doing SEO now has changed because the SERP landscape has changed a lot over the years, right? The number of blue links have been reduced significantly, and a lot of new SERP features are coming into play, right? From your operations point of view, what all has changed, and how are you guys trying to match and give that really good exposure to your clients? Please.
Yeah, I think really what's happened is where we would often sell SEO in isolation years ago. Now we often sell SEO with other services, right? It's rare that we just sell SEO now on its own. And I think the reason for that is the way that the SERPs has moved, the way that the whole industry has moved. Everything is so interconnected, right? If you're not working on all of those attributed channels, you really do miss out. And for smaller companies, it's hard because they don't have the budget to do that necessarily. And if they are just focused on SEO, then there is less places for them to play. As you're talking, it's becoming more, the industry is becoming much more pay to play, right? And if Google could, it would turn its entire SERPs into pay to play, but they can't because of the history and being their mantra being to provide the user with the most genuine information at the point of search. Now, if they're all ads, then that sort of goes against that, right? But it's about navigating that. And actually, from an SEO service perspective, we've become much more adept at really helping clients understand how to navigate and how to still get value from organic, but also maps, position 0, the snippets. It's an ongoing, ever evolving process, which is where I think actually for the industry, it builds a lot of stability in SEO, right? SEOs are needed more than ever, actually, when it was like quite a simple algorithm and there was a lot of SEO agencies making good growth and doing work, but actually arguably probably weren't needed as much, right? You could have just gone and bought yourself a load of links and shot to the top of Google, whereas now it really has become a lot more detailed around how you navigate the minefield and the ever-changing world of SEO.
That's true. Luke, since you have been in business for long now, it's been around 7 years. Is there any horror story that you would like to share? Anything that didn't go the way you planned and didn't work with the client?
Yeah, I think there's probably been lots, right? Over the course of those years, there's lots of times, you reflect and you think, oh, I would have done that slightly differently, or the tactic was wrong. And as a business as well, when we started, 2018, the service that we offered then is so different to the service we can offer today. And a lot of the staff, have grown with us into, fantastic specialists now. But at the time, there's an element of you're winging it, right? And you're doing the best that you can. And, some of those early strategies and early deployments, God, I wish I could get hold of those clients again now and redo them. But I think that's just part of the journey. And I think really, I think looking back over some of the times, where we've taken on clients that maybe they weren't the right fit as well, which can be difficult for the staff and make the environment hard work. Typically, I would go back and not have taken on all the clients, or maybe sack some clients quicker. There's lots of learnings, I think, constant learnings on that. But, we're in a space where a strategy today probably needs to be very different tomorrow, right? So I don't think that feeling of evolution and constant change is ever going to go away. I think that's probably the thing I love about the industry the most as well, because if just, okay, cool, we've cracked it, we've got the blueprint for what success looks like, it would get pretty boring, right? Whereas the way it works. And that you wake up every day and you're not quite sure what you're going to wake up to, or what new algorithm update's going to come up or whatever. And that keeps it pretty interesting.
Okay. I think the best part about agency life is like you always feel that you're sitting on a roller coaster. That's it's really exciting. Yeah,
Definitely. You know what? And some people love that, some people hate it, but it is like, you see a lot of people that go in-house rather than agency, or do a bit of both, and then, get bored in-house because the pace is different. It's exciting, right? And I think if you like being challenged and you like having your back against the wall, sometimes you can learn and progress so much faster being in an agency environment than any other environment. And you're surrounded by smart people that are having to innovate in their day-to-day lives, which I think is awesome.
yep. And you cater to so many different kind of businesses and stuff. There's no other niche that would give you such kind of exposure. Agency does, right? So yeah.
No, I agree. And again, in a generalist agency like ours, 40 or 50 different verticals, like you are dealing with such different types of clients and different people as well. And again, if you're the person that enjoys that diversity to your day, like no 2 days are the same, right? Unless you want them to be. There are people that quite like, they want to just do content and turn it out, whatever. But again, you're writing content for 20 different clients. It's interesting. It's definitely interesting.
I think we're coming to an end here, Luke, and I would like to have a quick rapid fire with you. Are you ready for that?
I'm ready.
What is your last Google search?
Whew. What did I search for? I think I searched for an address. I was trying to go to an awards night last night, probably nothing that sexy. And before that, I've been looking at holidays. I'm going to Barcelona next weekend, so flights probably.
Nice. What is the best advice you ever received?
Best advice I ever received was to put other people into positions that you can't deal with yourself, or that you're not good for, right? There's lots of things that we're great at. There's lots of things that inherently each of us are probably not that great at. And hiring people that can fill in those areas and really help elevate what you do best has been the best advice and best practice. It's taken a while to get into, but it's definitely the best advice.
Nice. At what age were you the happiest and why?
I have reflected on this lots of times. I think we all do. Probably when I was like traveling, I was 22, 23. I traveled Southeast Asia. I lived in Australia for a year or two. I guess no pressure, right? No commitments, no responsibility. That was great. I mean, it's obviously not real life forever, but it was a dream life. So I was extremely happy then. But don't get me wrong, I am happy now on the journey that I'm on as well. It's just a different type of story. But yeah, that freedom was nice.
What career did you dream of having as a kid?
I always wanted to be an astronaut. I think it's probably like, a typical one for a young boy. But yeah, I love everything about astronomy and the stars, and following all of the cool stuff that's going on with like Blue Origin and SpaceX and stuff like that. So yeah, who knows? One day, maybe I'll be able to afford a ticket up in one of those ships. Who knows?
I'm sure SpaceX will fulfill your dream in the next few years, please.
Yeah, hopefully.
They are there.
Yeah.
What trait most defines you?
What trait? I think probably resilience. I've always been entrepreneurial, and I've always had businesses, and I've always been pushing forward. Not everything's always gone my way, and being able to like pick yourself up and get back on with it is something that I think I'm proud of and that I'm able to do.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Lou. Thank you for all the time and the valuable tips that you have shared with the viewers. Really appreciate it. Thanks.
Thank you. Really enjoyed it as well.